All right, cool. So this is episode 2.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we are here. We have made it. YouTube didn't block us from the first one.
No copyrights.
No copyrights. I didn't steal anybody's ideas. We were just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to block talk, I guess.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. So this episode, we're going to talk about the difference between people who want to, I guess, just go to school as in college or any other secondary school, and then also compared to getting a job. This is something that I've definitely, I guess, been an advocate for, because I see so many people go to college and then they don't get jobs after college. Like you might get a job, but it's not the job you actually wanted to.
Or you even got a degree for.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, we got to stop because I forget to always introduce.
I was like, is he going to say the topic and then say, so?
Yeah. All right, so today on the show we have
Dustin,
I've met him through the AAM program again, just like we had Nelson on the other day. And Dustin was in the Marines, not Navy.
About
Marines.
to come across this table.
He was in the Marines. But tell us a little bit about your Marine experience, actually.
There was a lot of alcohol.
A lot of alcohol.
There was a lot of that. Oh.
Yeah.
That's why I laugh when I see the memes. They're like, "How was your military experience?" And it's a scene from Game of Thrones with the drunk, the little midget, and he was like, "To be honest, I was drunk for most of it." It wasn't necessarily everything I thought it was, but then it also did surprise me with some things that I didn't think it would be, and it turned out to be that way. And other ways, it kind of was disappointing.
What's some stuff that you, I guess, expected?
Well, for one, even though I was going into the aircraft wing, I still expected. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go shoot people. No, I mean, because when I went into the recruiting office, I told them, I was like, I'm gonna go infantry, straight out the gate before I took it to ASVAB or anything. They're all right, just take the ASVAB, we'll put you in the infantry. Well, they didn't do that because they got my test scores back, and they're like, no, you're not going infantry. I was
you're
like,
too smart.
Yeah, I guess. I thought that at first, then I found out. I was like, there are people in the infantry that scored hundreds on the ASVAB. I scored 73.
That's wild.
Yeah, but they said my GT, which would be like your mechanical, electrical, your those types of skills, they like, you blew that out of the water. And like we can't let you go to the infantry. You have to go to a more of a, I guess, for a civilian term, like a vocational job.
Oh, okay.
So they put me in the wing, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll swing with the wing.
Yeah.
But
so what exactly did you do?
I was aviation electronics tech.
Aviation electronics tech. All
Yeah.
right. So is there stuff that you specifically learned that had anything to do with stuff that you had done before you had joined?
A lot of everything that I had learned before I joined kind of led up and got me the opportunity to have that job.
Gotcha.
Because when I was in high school, Toyota had just built a plant right out, probably like 5 minutes from my hometown, and they came to my high school and was like, "Hey, we want your juniors," which at that year I was a junior, to take this test to see how they fare on it, and if they score a certain level, it was like bronze, silver, and gold tier. And I scored gold tier. Me and I think like 11 others did.
Oh, okay.
And they went to another high school and they did it. And then they pitched a sale to us and it was like, hey, take this program. We'll pay you at every third of it. So at the first third's done, you get paid. The second third's done, you get paid. And the last third, you finally get paid again. And it was basically an electrician's course. But it was a year's worth, or no, it was like an associate's degree worth, compressed to one Monday a week, and in the summer between my junior and senior year we went for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And we went through the electrical courses, the OSHA regulations. Like I got certified before I even left high school in OSHA.
Jeez, that's dope.
Yeah. It was annoying, but yeah, I had to do all that. And so that, and then I took an auto mechanics class in high school as well. And that, and just growing up where I grew up, because you're from Alabama.
Yeah.
And I'm from Mississippi, so a lot of people like to do their own work.
Yeah.
They like to.
Absolutely.
They don't like to pay other people to do something they can do.
Yeah.
And so I grew up, rolling up a car, putting it on, and doing maintenance on it. You know, changing the oil, checking all the fluids. If there was something broke and I could replace it myself, I'd replace it myself.
Yeah.
Which nowadays it's a lot harder to do that because there's no room, and you have to know all this, the electrical stuff of it, and all the computers that are within a car now. And it's just pretty much they're making it almost impossible to work at it at home unless you do it for a living.
Yeah.
Then you can work at home on it if you own that same brand.
Which even though you did all of that, it's crazy how many people, men and women, don't know how to do that stuff.
Yeah. My best friend, he grew up like 5 minutes from me. One, never rode a four-wheeler his entire life. I put him on and I said, let's go. I was like, how did we grow up together and you never rode once?
Yeah,
But he's not good with cars. He even before I went to my first tech school, he called me all the time. He's like, hey, there's something going on with my car. And I was like, well, I can't diagnose it over the phone, but I can try. And he'd tell me what was wrong, and I'd give him I'd get him on the right path, and then he would take it to a shop, and they'd pretty much tell him close to the same thing I told him. I was like, yeah, it's in that vicinity, or it's something to do with that part.
Yeah. Which that's something, like, having that ability, like, we're all people going through the same things. Like, we all have the same problems every day. Yeah. If you've got a car, you've got car troubles. Yeah. Whether it's a flat tire randomly, which I need to go fix. Yeah. But you know, if whatever your problem is, you might have lights go out in your vehicle. It should be a simple fix. You should be able to know how to do that kind of stuff. And a lot of people, you know, they say some people are mechanically born with a skill or the gift to be able to do mechanical stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, that should be something that everybody should know, or not know how to do, but be able to do. Yeah. Because if you've got something that's, I guess, expensive, that you
should know how to take care of it.
Exactly. And if you're going to want to keep it for a while, then you should know how to take care of it, because you don't want to keep on continually dishing out money to somebody else to fix it. Yeah, that gets expensive.
It does. Oh my God, it does.
Yeah,
I looked it up on some of the cars that I worked on, and I was looking at, like, we had to. So the way it works is they give us the car, they say, hey, this is the issue, or they come in for a routine inspection. You know, like a 60K, where you got to change the fluids and inspect the vehicle. And on inspections, we'll see it, and I'm like, okay, so this, you got this going on, this is happening. Recommend, you know, we give it back to the people that talk to the customers, and then they talk to them, and if they want to do it, they say approve it, and then we start working on the car on outside of the inspection. And I know it's not just because it's Mercedes, but it does have a factor, because that name brand is a little bit more expensive, but still. Oh my God! How do people afford these things?
Yeah. Like, I'm always me and one of my friends, when we were in college, we had a bet about whoever got a Range Rover first, they had to pay the first car payment. That was something we had talked about. Yeah. But let's just say, I don't know. I guess you get a Range Rover that's like closer to newer, and it costs like $80,000. Yeah. If you're making, I don't know, 150 grand a year, that's still a super expensive thing to purchase.
That's over 50% of what you make.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not accounting for the maintenance you got to pay for.
Yes.
The insurance on it. And as well as your other bills and everything else you have to take care of outside of that.
Exactly. So even to bring that to a smaller scale, think about a person who's making, I would say the average American's making what, 40, 50,000. When you think about like a middle class, like, or lower class, you know, upper, high, whatever you want to say. But anyways,
like the middle class, I'd say low income would be probably around that 30K range.
Yeah.
And the middle class to upper middle class, they're in between like 45 to about 75, 80K.
Yeah, so that's for a single person. If you want a car, and that car is like a newer car, I would say the average, like, top of the line, not top of the line, but I guess fully loaded.
All the bells and whistles.
Yeah, like a Honda or a Toyota. Those cars are what, 30,000 or something like that?
Yeah, they're about 30,000. It depends on, if you get it bare bones, like, you don't want, I don't need the GPS, I got a phone, I don't need the GPS, I don't need this, I don't need that. If you take all the bare bones and you get it just bare bones and no bells and whistles, it is more affordable, because that's what I did with my car. I was like, I don't need all this extra stuff. Yeah. He's like, we got GPS. I was like, I have a phone.
Take it out.
Get rid of it.
Lower that price.
Yeah. But then they'll try to suck you in with maintenance contracts, which they do help.
Yeah.
They do help in the long run because, like, that initial couple years, it will help you save money.
Yeah.
Like, you can focus more on your payments than you worry about, oh, I got to make a payment. Oh, I got to save in case something happens in between payments.
Mm-hmm.
So that does help. But it does raise the price a little, but it is worth it if you, depending on how much you bring to the table to, like, as a down payment.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're spending 25, 30 grand on a newer car and you're making 50 grand, that's still a comparison to somebody getting that 80 grand car and making 100 to 150. Like, that car is most of what you're making a year. So it's so expensive to get somebody to do the maintenance on a vehicle when you could be doing it yourself, and especially if you have a more expensive vehicle, because those cars, the maintenance cost on them, what it costs to get the products to work on those things, it's way more than what you should be paying. I was listening to a Dave Ramsey his podcast, and some woman was complaining. She was like, I need a job, or she's like, I have a job, but I need a car. I need something to get around with, yada, yada, yada. He said, don't worry about impressing nobody. You got nobody to impress. The thing
Get
with
an
you,
A to B.
Exactly. He said, just get you an A to B. Get you a car that you're going to impress people. The fact that you can show up on time.
Which is sad to say these days.
It doesn't matter about showing up in style. Just be there and just do what you got to do. And he was just talking about, just get you a car. He said something about $2,000. Get you a vehicle that costs about $2,000.
That was my first car.
That's just going to be able to work. And if it can work in a daily driver, you're good. You can worry about getting that nice luxury car later in your life. But if you're struggling, you got debt and stuff like that, just get you something that just can run.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it should be. But a lot of people are so warped around, like, I have to put up, like, this facade that I live this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I have to impress these kinds of people. And I'm like, you're going to the club and spending money that you should be saving. You know, you're flossing on everybody or whatever they say it is. And but you go back to a studio apartment in the ghetto.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Some people's priorities are just flicked.
Absolutely flip flop.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy the difference between people's mindset on how they make that money. Because even if if you say that I need this and that, if you aren't making that kind of money, then people have that decision. When you come out of high school, you have that decision. Do I want to go to school or college or whatever, or do I want to start working? And for a lot of people, it's smarter to just start working. Something that I learned coming out of JSU, I'm repping the school right here, but coming out of college, I just knew school. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to college. And then I wanted to get my bachelor's degree, and I wanted to get in business management. So that's what I did. I finished in 4 years, and then I didn't know what was going to be next. And I actually was working at Pizza Hut the entire time while I was in college. And then I think it was the it was the spring semester of my last, so it was my last semester in college. I ended up working sales at a Gold's Gym. Yeah. And that experience was nice, but at the same time, it wasn't what I went to school for. Obviously. Yeah, I mean, I went to school to be a manager, and I mean, I did do some management at that gym. Yeah. But I wasn't, at the level that I was expecting. Some people, when they come out of college, they expect, I went through 4 years of education. Now I should be at a top tier level.
Where's your experience?
Exactly. If you don't have that experience, where are you really expecting to be placed?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, people get so hyped up in the big dreams or the dream jobs. They're like, oh, I'm going to school. That dude went to school for the same thing I'm going to school for, and look how he's living. Look at the position he's at. What they don't see is where that guy, he's got that, but what did it take for him to get there? He probably had to work all these little jobs that were like building blocks, and it gave him experience that he needed to be able to manage or to be able to be at that position in his life. Yeah, it's all building blocks. They want the finished product, but they don't want to build up to it.
which is wild. Like,
but in the day and age, it's immediate gratification.
Yeah.
It's the way with everything is nowadays. It's immediate. You don't have to wait. Like,
Yeah.
You don't even have to wait. Like, what is it, 100 years ago? You had to wait days. You sent a letter out to somebody. And now you're just like, oh, I got to send somebody something. Text. And they get it like that.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's instant gratification. So that does warp your mind, or warp the population's mind into saying, all right, I finished school. Where's my $150K a year job start?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, people expect to make so much money. You think that as soon as you get out of college and you get your bachelor's degree, it's like it's almost as if you expect, like, you don't even have to actually be in school. Like, money's just going to start flowing into your bank.
Like, what? Like, I saw this billboard, and it was like the perfect statement about it. Said, did you really just spend $160,000 to make $40,000 a year?
That's true. That's true.
It's so true, and there's so many of them that do it too.
Yeah.
It's sad, but and that's another thing is some people they're pressured into school. They're pressured into it, and it, like our generation definitely was, because the generation before us, they were all workers, and the few that got rich, they had gone to school.
Yep.
But what the older generation doesn't realize is not everybody's born to go to school like that.
True.
Like, for me personally, I can't stand school. Like, writing essays and shit like that, not my cup of tea. Don't get me wrong. I can talk all day. I can write poems. I can do shit all day long. But you like, hey, write this essay. Yeah, that's how bad it gets. But I'm more of and I'm a hands-on learner. And so even like in the program that we're in, he can preach all day. I try to pay attention, but I don't. I can't. I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, yeah, okay, focus. I'm like a recovering addict, because I'm over here like digging into my hand, like stay awake, pay attention, come on, and it doesn't work. Like I hear every word he says, and I don't remember any of it. But the second we start doing it, I'm just like, oh, I got it. Like, it's all hands on for me, and a lot of people are like that. And school is not, even especially high school, is not tailored to that.
No,
they're tailored. The school system we have now is very outdated, because it was pretty much made for factory work to make, saying, hey, I can fall in line, I can do this one task, and everything goes smoothly. That's what the school system was initially made for.
Educate you enough to be able to do it.
Educate you enough to get you to where you're like, all right, I can do that, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the world is not like that anymore.
No.
And it's a very big difference nowadays of, like, you have all these different learning styles. And yes, they were there back then, but I don't think they were as prominent in people as they are now. With the way the world is and the way the technology is now, it brings that out in people more. It shows, like, oh, you can learn just by listening to someone talk.
Yeah.
And you can learn by just looking at something and touching it. You can learn that way. And other ones are like, the hybrids. They learn both ways. And those are the God-gifted ones. But school is literally tailored to just one learning style. And a lot of kids don't excel at that. Like, I wasn't the greatest student. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got A's and B's a lot, but I wasn't the greatest student at it. Like, I struggled with it still, because I was like, I'm not retaining this information. And it's because it's all in books. It's all reading. Now, if it was like reading and I had to do some examples with it and get my hands on it, then yeah, and I understand that it's impossible, whether it's high school, college, or like a normal or a formal college that everyone goes to. Yeah, like, it's hard for some subjects to get hands-on like that. It's just pretty much impossible. And others, it's not the case. But I feel like as a system, it's just, you can. This is how you're supposed to learn, and that's not how I learn best.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'll learn. I'll just be a little bit slower.
Yeah, and which is, like, it's not selfish to think to yourself, I understand this is how the system has to be, because, like, when I was in college, some of my classes, there were only like 20-something people, and then in some of my classes there was about 60 people or 70 people, and then, in big universities there's hundreds of people in a class, when, like, a big auditorium. Not everybody's going to do well in there, because if you're a professor, you're not trying to single out one person. If somebody has a question, you're going to have to be able to cater to. Think if 40 people got a question in the hour-and-a-half class.
You spend the whole hour talking and answering questions.
Exactly.
You don't even get to teach what you wanted to teach that day.
Exactly. So it's so rough to for college especially, to be able to cater to everybody's questions or to everybody's problems on the way they learn, because it's not fit right.
Yeah, so for that, I would say like normal colleges like that, or the big universities that have hundreds of kids in one classroom and they're all sitting there, and like it's impossible for them to really ask a question unless they make a scene about it.
Yeah.
I would say I think that's kind of like a design implement in it, because it's kind of teaching you to be independent. Like, oh, I have a question. And instead of being lazy and saying, hey, I have a question, answer it now.
Yeah.
You go out, you do the research, you find your answer to the question that you have.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's been designed into it to kind of help them do that. But in this day and age, everyone's lazy, which is weird to think, because we have so much access. We have the most access ever in history to information.
To anything.
And the quickness of getting it. And people are just getting lazier and lazier about it. And they would rather have someone tell them the information because that person knows it than them look it up themselves. Yeah. Which is completely backwards from what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, if our parents had the access to this kind of stuff, who knows how they would have treated it? Like we could predict, say that they would be this way, but we are our parents. Like we grew up with this. You're 25, right? Yeah, you're 25 and 26. Like we grew up, like we saw the first iPhones come out and the first like Samsungs and stuff like that. Yeah. And then, I mean, even when they had the Nokia Galaxy, I mean the
brick,
Galaxy, the Nokia brick phones,
bricks, the indestructible brick
with the snake on it.
Oh my god, dude! First game ever. Just come on.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been through and we've seen all that come through. So for us to experience that and to think about how technology, and as well as just the seeing the different kinds of work environments and growing up and seeing our parents, like my mom worked multiple jobs. She also had her own business doing catering and cooking and cleaning and stuff and my dad always worked at the state highway department. Like he was in the army, retired army, and then also worked at the state highway department. That's what I saw as far as my parents. And to see my dad working the same job, and I believe he had the same title like all the time, and then retired, it's just mind blowing knowing that I have a college degree and knowing that he didn't, and then the things that you can do differently in your life, the different avenues that you can take, and just seeing other people as well, just like my friends and my friends' parents, and knowing what they do, and then just communicating with people to find out, like, oh, what did you do when you got out of high school? Did you go to this, like, did you go some sort of special training? Did you get some sort of certain certification or something like that? It's crazy the different avenues you can take.
Yeah, there's a lot more avenues nowadays afforded to us than our parents ever had or could have ever dreamed of. Like, because my mom, she worked in furniture her whole life. She cut leather. She's a leather cutter. And it's rough on you. Mm. She would do that, and she would still have like 1 to 2 other side jobs where she'd leave there, and sometimes she'd go work at a liquor store, and she'd be sitting there and doing the whole sales thing. And then sometimes she eventually got me a job there while I was in school when I was old enough, at the arena where we have all our concerts, where all the music comes, the festivals, or any kind of gathering that's going to have a big crowd. The arena is where you go, and she worked security there, which I find hilarious because she's all of about this tall and she's just this little lady, and she's with security. I'm like, who are you gonna stop, Mom? Who are you gonna stop?
Stop! Don't quit it! Put me down!
That's what I think.
When
I see her in the security jacket, I'm like, Mom, who are you gonna stop? And then I see this like 6'4", 85-inch wide dude behind her. I'm like, he's the one that's gonna stop him. Okay. You're just the spotter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she did that, and she dropped out of school.
Okay.
She didn't finish high school. My dad, he finished high school, but he worked construction his whole life, and that's what he did. Another rough job. And then here I am. I didn't go to a real college, is what some people look, because some people look down on vocational colleges,
which is wild,
which is weird. And like I see these posts all the time, and they say people like there was this one. It was like a cartoon. And it was this girl, it was this woman, she was drawn, you could tell she was snobby just from her comments. And it said, you see that? And it was talking about a guy that was picking up the leaves, and he was in like a city shirt. And he was like picking up the leaves, and you could see that? That's why you should stay in school. And so you don't end up like him.
Oh, wow.
And then there was another mom with her son right by him. And said, you see that, son? He's got a pension. He's working towards retirement. He's like, he will be taking care of the rest of his life when he retires from this job, and I'll be damned if he's not making more than this bitch with her liberal arts degree. And the woman looked stunned, and I was like, fucking facts, straight facts. And people look down on it because it's not glorious, it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're not in this big $1 million building or $1 billion building with $1 million office with a scenic view of the big city you're in.
Yeah.
And they're like, if you don't have that, it's not a good job. If it's not glorious. And everybody wants that. And it's like, you want that, and you want to be able to afford all these nice things. Mm-hmm. There are people that do, you remember that show Dirty Jobs?
With Mike Dirty Jobs. Yeah.
There are people that do jobs like that make close to the same amount as some of the guys that you worship in the office.
Exactly.
They make it's just hard work, and it's actual real work. Mm-hmm. And I've always been a worker. I've come from two workers. And both sides of my family, they're all workers. Mm-hmm. That's what I was born to be, was a worker. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I can manage, I can be a manager, that's fine. I don't want to run no company because I'll just stress myself into an early grave because I worry a lot. But like I'll work, and that's what I'm good at, and that's how I learn and everything. I'm a very hands-on person. So that's why right after high school, I went straight into the military. That was my dream. I was like, graduate, military. And people asked me, why did you choose the Marines? And I was like, well, the guy I was raised with, I consider him my older brother. He joined the National Guard. And I was like, Army, National Guard, same thing. I'm the little brother. I got to one-up him. So I went into the Marine Corps. And I went there, did my stint, and then I got out. And when I got out, had the GI Bill ready, and I was like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I ain't going to a real college. I ain't going to pass. I was like, one, it's too much alcohol, too much partying, and I know me. I don't do well with homework.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I'm not going to learn anything anyway. Unless it's history, I'm not going to learn it. So I just went the vocational route, and people make fun of it. And I'm like, dude, people make a lot of money in the trades.
Oh, yeah.
Because if anything, I feel like tradespeople are more educated than the ones that go to universities. Mm-hmm. Because you have to constantly learn. Technology is constantly like changing your job. So you have to go back to school again or get additional training on the new equipment. Yeah. So you never stop learning.
Yeah.
Like trades, you have to continuously learn, continuously go to classes, constantly. And if you look at the hours, I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of hours you'll spend learning in classrooms and stuff for the new stuff that you never thought you would do for a trade. Like, oh, I'm here, I'm gonna swing a hammer. No, that's not all you're doing. Yeah. So it's insane, and people look down on it, and it blows my mind. I'm like, this person works hard, makes an honest living, makes a damn good living. And it's like, but because he's not all flashy and in a $100,000 suit, yeah, it's not a good path for someone to take. Yeah. Yeah. Like, that blows my mind.
Which I'm a big advocate for people just do what you think is best for you. And in my opinion, a lot of people, you know, as you said earlier, they get pressured into certain decisions. But pretty much just we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But pretty much just to sum everything up, I think it's best for people to help schools. As you were talking about, it's kind of an outdated system. Help the schools understand what the kids need to do when they get out. Help them understand that.
Prepare them for life.
Yeah, prepare them for life. Prepare them for that first step.
And teach me how to do taxes. I don't care about Excel.
Yeah. Tax season's coming up. Kids should be able to know how to do it as soon as they get out. Yeah. And that's something that they should all be prepared for.
All in all, the last thing I just want to say is I'm not downplaying universities. They are important, and, you know,
absolutely,
especially for people that excel in that environment, you know, they need those schools. Yeah. I'm just saying, my thing is, I'm not one of those people. I'm a vocational person. So I have to do the trades. That's what I'm good at. That's what I excel at. So I feel like you should choose whatever you're good at that makes you happy. Yeah. Regardless of whichever way you want to go. Do what makes you happy, and do what you know that you'll be good at, you'll excel at, and you'll provide a good life for yourself and future family. Correct. Is all I think anybody should do.
All right, everybody.